Okay, hi everybody. Donna again here, and we're just going to continuing our video series with some local folks that we know and some good friends that have local businesses that we think you can benefit from, you can use, or you know somebody that can use them, but also really just to talk and see how we're all kind of pivoting during this, shutdown time and how we're still taking care of our customers. So Robin, thank you so much for joining me today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about who you are, what company you work for, and kind of a little bit about what you do, because we just had a brief conversation, and to be honest, I didn't know everything that you offered, and now I do, and it's amazing. So why don't you go ahead and tell everybody what you do?
Well, thanks very much. I'm Robin Mikulik, and I'm from my hometown of Harvey's Lake, born and raised here. I work for a company called Flexible Funding, and they are based out of San Francisco, California. I run the national sales program for them for something called accounts receivable funding. And basically, we work with businesses that are working with other businesses, B2B, and we help them with their cash flow. So traditionally, businesses have to offer something like terms to their customers if they want to acquire the business. And terms are typically 30 days, 60 days. So a business will go out and they will perform a service or deliver a product and then create an invoice. They'll send that invoice to their client, and then they'll wait and wait and wait to get paid. What I do is I accelerate the cash flow. So I can provide the customer with up to 98% of the money up front. We'll take a 2% fee, which is very reasonable off the face value of the invoice, and we'll give them some cash so they can grow their business exponentially.
And is there a limit as to the size of business that you work with? Does it have to have like so many employees or so much revenue?
Oh, that's a great question. We can work with startups on their very first order. There are no monthly minimums or annual contracts, and we can fund up to $25 million.
Wow, that's pretty huge. And I think that's good to know, because a lot of companies, especially startups, and especially now, they may run into this problem because they were just starting out and then they got shut down. We're examples of that, true. And I think your service actually could help them kind of get through this slow time, because it seems like we're kind of on the uptick of people opening. And so are there any, how do they qualify? Is there like a qualification or anything, or they just call you and
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, absolutely. There's an application process, and we really look at the customer's credit, their customer's credit, rather than the business owner's credit, like my client's credit, to determine eligibility. So for example, if I have someone with a mediocre credit score, that doesn't matter to me. What matters is that they're selling to a reputable company. The repayment source lies in the actual customer. So for example, if customer ABC is my client and they are manufacturing envelopes, if they're selling those envelopes to Staples, then they would qualify, because Staples is a great customer. So we call them debtors, and if the debtors qualify, they'll pretty much get their line with us. So we establish a line based on the opportunity that a client might have, and that opportunity is only accessible once goods or services are delivered. And once they get that, they can turn it into cash, and then we actually collect from, my example, Staples would actually be paying me back.
Okay, so that makes it very convenient.
We can work with true startups. We do a lot of acquisition financing. Say there's a 30-year established business, but they just sold the company. The new buyer has now become not a 30-year-old company, but a brand new company. So in that case, a bank might not look at them as favorably as someone like me. They are technically a brand new business again, and banks usually want 3 years financials in order to lend them some money. So we find that a lot of acquisition type of businesses or new sales, new businesses being sold are great fits for our company.
And that actually might be very timely, because I see now you have companies that have existed that are throwing their hands up and say, we we can't do it anymore. We're closing our doors. So I
Yeah.
think you're going to see a lot of acquisitions happening. And so
Yeah.
your service is perfect in this time, because we always say in times of struggle and pandemic, there's always going to be a group that suffers, and there's going to be a group that does well because they're part of the helping process, right? And so
Absolutely.
I think your company is part of that. Have you seen have you had to make any changes since the pandemic and businesses closing? How has that affected what you do?
Well, I used to do quite a bit of networking, which obviously
Yeah.
none of us can do right now. So now I'm missing all that, interaction. My referrals come from people like you, or from the internet, from LinkedIn, from my existing broker relationship. And I've been fortunate to live at home in, beautiful Harvey's Lake for some time now. So what I'm finding is our company as a whole had, San Francisco was one of the first hit, if you will. We all moved out into our respective homes and doing business as usual. We're located right downtown in Empocardo Center, and to not have to go to the office every day, I think has actually been a blessing for most of my team out there. We're finding that we were already set up to do things remotely, and we're very tech savvy, coming from the Silicon Valley. We've got some bells and whistles, if you will, that keep us ahead of our peer competition. So when all of this pandemic happened, some of our other competition was struggling to try to do it remotely. We just picked up our laptops and moved out, and business as usual. So we have a great team set up to make this work. And for me personally, business as usual, because my brokers are all over the whole country. And people are using the internet more than ever to shop. So my referral network hasn't changed. My clients are still coming in. I think some people are seeing a transition, but we've got money on the street. We've got lots of money to lend, and we're going to do it as fast as we can.
Great. And so on that note, how can we refer businesses to or people to you? What is the best customer that we can help you with?
It's a great question. Thanks. We work with a lot of temporary staffing companies. Temporary staffing companies are a great example because every week they have payroll, and for every new customer that you get, you probably have 5, 6, 10 new staffing bodies you have to place there, and then weekly payroll for those people. So it's a bittersweet situation for a staffing company growing. They need to make that payroll for at least 6 to 8 weeks before they get paid from their client. That's where I come in. I'll make the payroll every week for them for any new business that they have, even their existing business, and then help them grow exponentially. So that's one specific example. But in general, any business growing, any acquisition, any transfer of ownership, they're all good B2B type businesses. I work with, like I said, manufacturers, distributors. Cleaning services are huge right now for me because with the CDC putting in some rules and effects of how safe a business can be and what would be required, I think the standard is going to be sanitizing a business twice a week so far, unless they change the rule. So all these cleaning companies will be scattering to get as much business as they can done during the week, but then they'll still have to wait 30, 60 days to get paid on this. Grocery stores, if you think about it, Price Chopper and ShopRite and Weiss stores, Wegmans, they're all required to have this cleaning service. So it goes on many different levels to keep us safe.
Okay, no, that's good to know. I'm just taking notes as you're talking because I have some
Yeah.
ideas. Yeah. And so if a new company comes to you and they're trying to get signed up, what is the process and how long does it take from the day they contact you to the day that, say, they're an account with you?
Okay. Well, typically we can do everything online. We don't need any physical paperwork, so that's great. We would send them a short application, their personal financial statement. We'd ask them to provide things like their articles of organization, a balance sheet and income statement, profit and loss statement, and then most importantly, a copy of their receivables and their payables. and a sample of how they invoice. Any future purchase orders or upcoming contracts that they may have would be very important as well, so that we can see the future opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
We would review that within a day or two. They would get a term sheet showing our pricing structure. We don't have a one price fits all. It's just a general, somewhere it falls in around 2%. It could be 1.5%, it could be 2.5%, but generally they're going to get that type of fee. They'll make a decision if it works for them. They'll sign the contract, again, electronically, and then we'll start the process of document preparation. That comes out in another day or two. They'll get a DocuSign document to make it easy on them. They'll review it, sign it, and submit it to us. Then we'll do an onboarding. So this whole process up to the onboarding stage might take a week. Once we do the onboarding, that's where we get all general questions answered. We explain to them how the next steps work and how they can submit invoices and accounts receivable for their future cash flow needs. They'll provide us with a way to deposit the money via checking account typically, and then we'll get started. They'll tell us how much money they need. Within a day or two, they'll have that cash. And then as they go forward, every time they create new receivables, they would send those to us as well. When they need cash, they'd submit an accounts receivable aging report, and then they tell us how much cash they need. Within the next day, they have the money in their account.
So that's a fairly quick process. And the one question I have is for you. So if they sign up and they get this service, do they have to do it continually or just as they need cash, like you were saying?
As they need cash. So typically my clients need cash to make payroll or to make vendor orders happen. So they'll plan their cash deposits based around that. So if payroll needs to occur every Friday, they might want me to look at their receivables on Wednesday and put the money in their account on Thursday, so they know it's available for ADP, Paychecks, or any of these companies to take the money out and make payroll.
So say, for instance, if I have 20 invoices outstanding there for receivable, I don't have to give you all 20. I just need to give you maybe what will cover those expenses for what I need.
That's
Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's great to know, because people don't like to feel like they're locked in 100%, but it's nice to know that you're there when you need them. And then if they don't need you, then they don't have to use it. That's
exactly.
Right.
I have some clients that are just seasonal. I have he's a temporary staffing company based out of Utah doing construction work, and he cash flows most of the summer, but in the winter months, things slow down. So he uses our services for November, December, January, February.
So good. And in the climate that we're in, that would work perfectly as well for a lot of contractors that work outside. They could use you for the winter. Oh, that's perfect. Really good.
That's right. Another great example is lawn service, commercial lawn service businesses. You know, they typically start up April and they'll go through October, November with the final cleanups. If they're working with these large corporations and, commercial businesses, they're billing weekly or every other week for their services that have been performed, and they're not getting paid for 30 to 60 days. You know, if they've got to keep especially ramping up, if they've got to keep their employees paychecks coming, and so they show up the next day, because sometimes that's really important. They look to our services for help.
That is so good. Well, I've learned a lot today. Is there anything that I missed, Robin, or anything else that you want people to know about your company?
Yeah. I think, some general and, cleanup end questions would be that there are no application fees or startup fees. There's no annual contracts. They can come and go as they please. And then credit. People ask me about their credit. I'm going to reiterate that again. Personal credit is never an issue. You know, I've even funded people that have been bankrupt before. This type of program is not for someone that's bankable, that has the ability to go and get all the cash they need from your local bank. If you can do that, definitely as a business owner, you should do that first. This is for people that have been to the bank and the bank said no. You know, this is typically a higher interest rate program, but it's more of a sure thing until they top off their growth levels or get themselves healthy again, and they can go back to traditional financing.
Great. And do you have, I know now we're all working from home, but do you have a brick and mortar that people come to see, or do they do everything virtually?
For now, everything is virtual here. I don't need a brick and mortar store. As I mentioned, our headquarters are in San Francisco. We've got a satellite office in LA as well. And then one in Utah, one in Colorado, and then I'm just virtual.
Okay. And I'll put everything in the comments, but if somebody wants to get a hold of you, if they have questions on how they can use your services, how do they reach you?
The best way is to either call me or text me at 570-362-2810, or you can email Robinn, Robinn,
Mhm.
at flexiblepending.com.
Okay, that's easy enough. Good.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. Well, thanks, Robin. This was really interesting. And I think especially now, there's going to be so many businesses that really will need your services. So we'll spread the good word far and wide.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate it. Yeah,
Oh, of course.
definitely very busy right now, but still we've got lots of money to lend to put on the street.
Oh, it's good to know. All right. Well, great.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you for your time today, Robin. And we'll see if we can get some more business coming your way.
Great. It's been my pleasure. Thank you for having
Okay.
me.
Of course.
Bye now.
Thank you.